In the rose-red city of Petra, carved from sandstone cliffs by the Nabataeans 2,000 years ago, there are places tourists are allowed to see. The treasury, the monastery, the street of facades, and then there are places no guide will take you. Passages that appear only at certain hours, chambers that exist in the space between carved stone and living rock. The Bedouin who live in Petra's shadow have a saying, "The jinn carved the first temple.
Man carved the second."
But who carved the third? In 2018, an archaeologist named Dr. Sarah Mitchell came to Jordan to find out. She never left. Part 1. The Discovery. Sarah had spent her career studying Nabataean architecture. She'd published papers on Petra's water systems, its trade routes, its mysterious decline. But she'd always felt something was missing from the official history. The Nabataeans couldn't have carved Petra alone. The precision, the scale, the sheer impossibility of some structures, there had to be more to the story. She'd heard the local legends, of course, stories about jinn helping to build the city or still inhabiting it. She'd dismissed them as folklore, the kind of mystical explanations primitive people attach to impressive engineering. But then she found the third chamber. It was in a restricted area beyond the monastery where tourists weren't allowed. Sarah had permission from the Jordanian Department of Antiquities, but her Bedouin guide, Mahmoud, refused to take her past a certain point. "There are places even we don't go," he said, his weathered face serious. "Places that belong to the old ones, the jinn al-Hijar, the jinn of the stones." "Superstition," Sarah said, though she said it kindly. Mahmoud shrugged. "Then go alone. But don't touch anything you find, and be back before sunset. The jinn are merciful in daylight, at night." He trailed off, shaking his head. Sarah went alone. The passage she found was narrow, hidden behind a rock fall that looked natural but wasn't. Behind it, carved into the cliff face, was a doorway. Not decorated like the treasury, not grand like the monastery, just a simple rectangular opening with symbols above it that Sarah didn't recognize. Not Nabataean, not Greek, not Roman, something older. She entered with her flashlight and her camera, her heart racing with the thrill of discovery. The chamber inside was perfect, impossibly perfect. The walls were carved with such precision that they seemed almost molten, as if the stone had been shaped while soft and then frozen in place. No tool marks, no chisel scrapes, just smooth, flowing stone that seemed to defy geology. And in the center of the chamber, a figure. At first, Sarah thought it was a statue. But as she approached, she realized it was something else entirely. It was a man, or had been once. He was carved from the same rose-red stone as the walls, but he wasn't separate from them. He emerged from the wall as if he'd been caught mid-step while trying to walk through solid rock. One hand reached forward, fingers splayed. His mouth was open in a silent scream. His eyes, though made of stone, seemed to follow her. Part 2. The inscription. Sarah photographed everything, measured everything. And on the wall behind the stone figure, she found an inscription. It was in Old Nabataean, but fragmented, difficult to translate. She worked for hours by flashlight, her Arabic dictionary and linguistic training slowly piecing together the message. Here lies Malik the carver, who made a bargain with the jinn of the stones. They gave him the power to shape rock as if it were clay, to carve temples in a single night, to create beauty beyond mortal skill. In exchange, he gave them. The rest was eroded, unreadable, but the final line was clear. Do not follow his path. Do not call their names. Do not offer yourself to the stone. Sarah stood back, her mind racing. A historical warning about dangerous building practices, a morality tale, or something else. She reached out and touched the stone figure's outstretched hand. The stone was warm, and then it moved. Just slightly, a twitch of a finger, a shift in the texture. Sarah jerked her hand back, her heart hammering. Impossible. Stone didn't move. Stone didn't generate heat. But she'd felt it, clearly, unmistakably. She needed to get out, get back to her hotel, process what she'd found, return with proper equipment and a team. Sarah turned to leave. The doorway was gone. Where the entrance had been, there was only solid stone, smooth, seamless, as if it had always been a wall. Part 3. The Voice. Sarah didn't panic. Not at first. She was a scientist. There had to be an explanation, a hidden mechanism, a rotating door, something. She spent an hour examining the walls, looking for seams, triggers, anything. Nothing. The chamber was sealed, perfectly, impossibly. Her phone had no signal. She was too deep in the rock. Her flashlight battery was at 47%. That's when she heard the voice. Not from outside. Fry. Not from outside. From inside the stone itself, as if the walls were speaking. "You touched him," it said in Arabic, though Sarah understood it perfectly despite her limited grasp of the language. "You made contact. The bargain recognizes you now." "Who are you?" Sarah asked, her voice shaking. "We are the Jinn al-Hijar, the spirits of the stone. We have been here since before the Nabataeans, since before humans gave this place a name. We shaped the mountains, we carved the first temples, and we made a bargain with those who wished to build. The carver, Malik was the first, the greatest. He begged us for the power to create beauty, and we gave it to him. He carved wonders, temples, tombs, palaces, each one more magnificent than the last. He became famous, beloved, the greatest artist the Nabataeans had ever known. What happened to him?" A sound like laughter echoed through the stone. The bargain required payment. For every temple carved, a piece of himself, a memory, a feeling, a part of his humanity. He carved and carved, feeding us pieces of his soul until there was nothing left but the urge to create. And when he had nothing left to give, we took what remained. You turned him to stone. We made him part of his greatest work. He is the stone now, forever creating, forever carving, forever trapped in the moment between human and rock. It is what he wanted, to be eternal, to be art itself. Sarah backed against the wall, her breath coming in short gasps. "Let me out." "We cannot. You touched him. The bargain recognizes contact. Now you must choose. Carve for us, as he did, and we will grant you the power to create wonders, or refuse and remain here in darkness until the stone claims you anyway." "That's insane. I'm not a carver. I'm an archaeologist. You study what others built. Don't you want to build instead? Don't you want to create something that will last forever? We can give you that power. Touch the stone again. Accept the bargain, and we will teach you to shape reality itself." Sarah's flashlight flickered. 39% battery. Part 4. The Temptation. For 3 hours, Sarah resisted. She tried to dig through the walls with her tools. She screamed for help until her throat was raw. She searched every inch of the chamber for an escape. Nothing. And all the while, the voices whispered, promised, tempted. "You'll die here if you refuse. Your bones will join the stone. But if you accept, you'll live forever. Your work will be studied for millennia. Your name will be remembered when everything else has turned to dust." Her flashlight died at hour 4. In the absolute darkness, Sarah felt the walls closing in. Not literally, but psychologically. The weight of the mountain above her, the tomb-like silence, the certainty of slow death from dehydration. She thought of Malik, trapped mid-scream in the stone. Was that better or worse than dying in darkness? At hour 6, Sarah made her decision. She crawled forward in the blackness until she found the stone figure. She placed both hands on its carved chest. "I accept," she whispered. "Teach me." The stone beneath her palms pulsed like a heartbeat. Part 5. The carving power flooded into Sarah, not through her hands, but through her very being, as if the stone itself was pouring knowledge directly into her mind. She understood suddenly how to shape rock, not with tools, but with will. She could feel the molecular structure of the sandstone, could sense its weaknesses and strengths, could command it to flow like water and harden like diamond. The darkness was no longer dark. She could see through the stone, perceive its structure, navigate it as easily as walking through air. "What do you want me to carve?" she asked. "Yourself," the voices answered. "That is always the first work. That is always the price. Carve your image into the stone, and you will understand what it means to be eternal." Sarah reached up and touched the wall. The stone was soft under her fingers, pliable, warm. She began to shape it, pulling and pushing, creating a face, her face, emerging from the rock. It was easy, too easy. The stone wanted to be shaped. It was eager, hungry for form. As she worked, she felt something happening to her body, a coldness spreading from her fingers, up her arms, across her chest. The price, she realized, the bargain taking its payment. With each detail she carved, each eyelash, each strand of hair, she felt herself becoming less warm, less soft, less human. But the sculpture was beautiful, perfect, more lifelike than anything she'd ever created before. When she finished, she stepped back to admire her work. Her stone face stared back at her from the wall, mouth open in wonder or horror. She couldn't tell which. "Beautiful," the voices said. "Now carve another, and another. Fill this chamber with your art. Give us everything you are, and in return, you'll create marvels that will outlast empires." Sarah looked down at her hands. They were gray now, the color of sandstone, hard, cold, still flexible, but barely. She had hours left, maybe days, before the stone claimed her completely. But oh, the things she could create before then. Part 6. The Finding. Mahmoud waited 3 days before entering the restricted area. He knew the signs. He'd seen them before, twice in his lifetime. Other foreigners, archaeologists, and adventurers who'd ignored warnings and ventured where they shouldn't. He found the hidden entrance, the one that had opened for Dr. Mitchell and would stay open until the jinn had finished their work. Inside the chamber, he found her, or what was left of her. She stood in the center of the room, a figure carved from rose-red stone, her hands raised as if still shaping something, her face frozen in an expression of ecstatic creation. Around her, the walls were covered in new carvings, faces, hands, bodies, all emerging from the stone with impossible precision, her final work. And behind her, Malik, the ancient carver, still reaching forward after 2,000 years. Mahmoud whispered a prayer and placed a small offering at the chamber's threshold, dates and honey, traditional gifts for the jinn. Then he left, carefully sealing the entrance behind him with rocks and sand. He would report that Dr. Mitchell had an accident, a rockfall perhaps. Her body never recovered. Very tragic. The Department of Antiquities would search, of course, but they wouldn't find the chamber. The jinn would make sure of that. They always did, until the next person touched the stone. Epilogue. The warning in Petra, the rose-red city carved from cliffs. There are places tourists are allowed to see, and there are places they're not. The Bedouin guides know which is which. They know the stories. They know the price of curiosity. If you visit Petra, if you wander beyond the designated paths, if you find chambers that aren't on any map, don't touch the stones. Don't answer if you hear voices. Don't accept any bargains, no matter how beautiful the promises, because the jinn al-Hijar are patient. They have waited 2,000 years. They can wait 2,000 more. They're always looking for new carvers, new artists willing to trade their humanity for immortality, new hands to shape the stone. And in the hidden chambers beyond the treasury, beyond the monastery, Beyond where any guidebook mentions, the collection grows, one stone figure at a time, all of them frozen mid-creation, all of them still carving in their way, forever.
Like, share, subscribe.